Welcome to another episode of the Interfaiths programming here at FIU. We are very honored to have Joanne and Susan that are here from Temple Beth Am. They're very esteemed colleagues, and they've been part of our Jewish-Muslim small dialogue group, and they are pillars in their own right of the Florida Jewish community, and they have a strong interest in interfaith work. So what we'll do is we'll explore a little bit about their background and talk about the work that they're doing, both with the community and their larger hopes and aspirations for the meaning of this interfaith work in this very challenging time that we're living through right now. So I'll start off with Joanne.
Well, first of all, thank you for inviting us to participate in this. I'm currently the chair now of Unbiased, which is our anti-Semitism initiative at Temple Beth Am. Susan is on the board, the committee with the rest of us, and we've been working for the last 3 years on this initiative. I will tell you a little bit about my background, what brought me to this kind of work within our synagogue. I was born in Miami, raised in Miami, so it's unusual to be a native and still here. I left for a few years and came back, but I grew up in a Miami that's very different from the Miami of today. It was a small town. Everybody got along. Our neighborhood was multicultural, different religions. My elementary school and middle school and high school, there were people of every faith, every ethnicity. There were immigrant students who started coming in the 60s. And I grew up feeling like, yes, I am a Jewish girl, but I'm also a human being. And that was sort of how it was. We didn't feel different necessarily, except at Christmas time, when our classrooms had a Christmas tree and we all had to bring an ornament. And my mom wasn't quite sure where you buy an ornament. So we got one and brought it. And I always wanted one in my house, but I always helped my friends down the street decorate their Christmas trees. They came to my house and lit the menorah. It was fine. I went to school in high school. It was the first time that I was in integrated high school. The schools in Miami were forced integration, but in my area, it didn't have to be forced. It was natural. People lived there and lived and worked and studied together. So I grew up feeling like interfaith work, it's a word I didn't know what it really involved. We all got along. We didn't talk about it. As a matter of fact, reflecting my 3 closest lifelong friends who are still among my very best friends that I met in elementary school are not Jewish.
Okay.
And I didn't have close friends who were Jewish until probably middle school and high school, when I got more involved in the greater Miami Jewish clubs and social things. I wound up becoming a nursery school teacher and then a high school art teacher here in Miami during the Mariel boat lift. So I had students coming into Hialeah High School every day, new students. And then I decided to go to law school. And I went to the University of Miami. And upon graduation, I was offered a teaching position. So then I was a professor at the law school for 30 years. Again, working with all kinds of people. Kept my faith very close and personal. I didn't get involved in the Jewish community and in Jewish outreach. Instead, I brought my Jewish faith and my Jewish values outward and became very involved in boards in Miami and the Community Relations Board and some other volunteer boards. And that work taught me there was a lot I didn't know about different people in different areas. When I got quite ill and I had to stop working and I had to stop doing everything. And it gave me a number of years to reflect on what did I really enjoy in my life if I ever felt well enough. And it was community outreach and social justice work. And when Rabbi Barris came up with the idea for this anti-Semitism initiative, I said, that's it, I'm in. So that's how I got involved.
That's amazing. Yeah, I mean, it's a wonderful. So, do you feel that that has also helped you in terms of what helped change your private faith into something that you pursued a bit more?
Probably getting sick.
Hmm.
I wasn't sure. In fact, I was pretty sure I was not going to be okay.
Right.
And I was.
Yeah, it's a miracle.
And it was a miracle.
Yeah.
And my rabbis were very comforting and very involved. And I learned, I'm going to quote something I heard the other night. One of our confirmands at Temple Beth Am had written something. And I'm going to take it for a moment, apply it. She said, being Jewish means being part of a strong, compassionate, kind, and caring community. And that was when I felt it. I felt it because people I didn't even know knew me, reached out and were very comforting. And I began to feel the personal faith along with the community faith.
That's amazing. Wonderful. So, Susan?
Well, I grew up for the first 4 years of my life in upstate New York in a little town called Ballston Spa. Okay. And I grew up Jewishly. There was apparently a large synagogue in Saratoga Springs right next door. I was too young to really participate. My family then moved to Miami after that, and it was a very challenging time. My father needed to take his oral surgery boards again, and there were quotas. And in fact, I found out that we had changed our name so that he would be more accepted in the community. And it came as a great shock. It was very confusing to me. I thought, wait a minute, am I adopted? Am I part of this family? How do I fit in? And unfortunately, I had looked into some papers, and that's how I found it, what kids do when there are little straw baskets. And then I didn't know how to bring it up to my parents. And I was kind of in a deep, dark space for a bit and finally brought it up. And they explained to me that when they moved to this very tiny town, at the time in upstate New York, there were just 4 Jewish families. And then when we moved here, that was the name that they chose a name, and it was a family name. And so I then understood that. And when I came to Miami in the late 50s, early 60s, there was a lot of racial tension and tension for any minority group, which I didn't really understand, and kind of just went along with my life in a public school, and then eventually our schools went on strike and I had to go to a private school. And fortunately, my parents were able to send me. By then, my father was settled in his new profession that he had started over. He had been a dentist and then went back to become an oral surgeon. And there was tremendous racial tension because he practiced in Hialeah. And people there couldn't afford the health care they needed. And he would just take them as patients and they would return it in services. It was kind of like a barter system that I grew up around. And that was my experience in high school. There were private clubs and parties that I wasn't invited to because I identified proudly as a Jewish woman. And went through college and graduate school away from Miami, got graduate degrees in counseling education and then in social work, and really worked in a social action area, working with mostly in a medical setting, but with minorities, for which I was the minority. And that was all fine. And then prior to that, I married someone who was not Jewish,
Mm.
which really was uncomfortable for my, I think for my mother, who was, my father passed away when I was 17. He caught hepatitis from a patient.
Oh, wow.
Didn't know he had it. They didn't glove in those
Right.
days. And he didn't know he had it, or thought he had something else like the flu.
Yeah.
And I met my husband in college, and we got married a week after college. Actually, yesterday was our 50th anniversary,
Wow.
our 50th wedding anniversary.
Congratulations.
Who did that then?
Yeah.
I mean, and I think my mother was just happy to get rid of me. And my husband's family were Episcopalian, and our rabbi here, my husband thought he would convert, and then at the 11th hour chose not to. He just didn't feel that that was where he wanted to be. And very prominent rabbi in Miami said, you know what? I'm going to put my bets with these two, and that they're going to, raise a Jewish family. And we did. And at 50, he chose Judaism, which came as a complete surprise to the entire family. My younger daughter at the time said, put her hand on her hip and went to school and said, just because he chose Judaism doesn't mean that we have to give up the tree. And it was all very interesting while we were at Temple Beth Am. And I slowly got involved with interfaith families, young couples, and with parents and grandparents whose children had interfaith marriages. And I got involved I actually went for training up into Cincinnati to Hebrew Union College, and would help run the classes, Introduction to Judaism, and I would do the psychoeducational parts with another colleague who had gone for training. And then we started working with parents and grandparents. And I was quite surprised when my husband chose Judaism. I just thought, we're an interfaith family. That was my identity. But the truth is that from a very early age, and I think I shared this with you, there was a life book called The World's Great Religions. And I was in love with this book, so much so that my parents had to find it because the library copy was getting checked out too much. And that really stimulated my interest in learning about people. And I saw it as layering when people either chose to stay in their religion and just learn more about another, or they chose Judaism, that they didn't have to give up who they were and what they thought. It was an opportunity to grow and to layer. And that has basically been my motivation for this kind of work. I'm very interested in learning about people. My background is in counseling, and I learned so much in having these relationships and listening. And that was the real motivator for me, and particularly in a world now that seems to thrive, unfortunately, on hate, and in particular anti-Semitism. I feel the need to contribute in whatever way I can to learn more about others and have others learn more about me and about what I'm all about and what I value. And my guess is, and what I found out, it's not even a guess, is that we share so much in common. And
so let me go back to Joanne. I think talking about this idea, this is a really important idea of anti-Semitism. That is something that has become much more apparent, I think, in the last few years. This rise in anti-Semitism. I know that Unbiased is specifically focused on anti-Semitism. Can you talk to us a little bit about what you see in terms of that experience and how what has that been like to see an increase in anti-Semitism, and what do you think is driving it?
What has it been like? It's been very heartbreaking, first of all, because there was a time when hatred and anti-anybody was under the radar,
Yeah.
under the rug a bit. And in the last 8 years, I'll say, well, no, more, people have become comfortable expressing hatred.
Right.
And that's led to more hatred, and that has led to violence.
Right.
There's been a history of anti-Semitism for thousands
Of course,
and thousands of years, and the Jews have typically been the ones that are identified when somebody has to say it's because of the other.
Right.
That's why things are the way they are. And so that's not new.
Right.
What's new is the feeling that it's okay to be like that.
Mm-hmm.
That it used to be embarrassing to share that you hated other people
Right.
because of who they are or what they believed or what they look like. You kept it quiet. Now it's just out there, and it's all over the social media,
Right.
and it's being fomented into action and violence. There used to be a theory that one teaches in law school and learns in law school about free speech.
Okay.
Okay? You can have the freest of speech in the whole wide world, but you cannot scream fire in a crowded movie
Right.
theater, because people will trample each other, and that leads to violence, and that leads to action.
Right.
So free speech is fine until it begins to hurt people.
Right.
So the speech that we're hearing, the hate-filled speech and the anti-Jewish, anti-Israel, anti-Zionism, is not just a feeling. It's actually a call to people coming to action, and that's terrifying.
People have been dying, yeah.
People have been dying. Relationships have been hurt. People have begun to hate their neighbors and their friends and their cohorts, and political divisions because of that. And it's also Islamophobia and LGBTQ plus hatred and bigotry and racism. Anytime somebody seems other,
Yeah.
and I'm not going to get into politics, but I will say the leaders in the world and in the community have an obligation to tamp it down instead of fan the flames. And I'm afraid that it's going to get worse before we figure out ways to make it better.
So what is, I know you don't represent the entire Jewish community of Miami, but what is Temple Beth Am's role in trying to challenge sort of this hatred?
We decided when Unbiased got started, this was before October 7th. Things changed a lot since then. So I'm going to go back to our initial charge. We came up with the name, and our marketing department was fabulous in coming up with the name. You'll notice the UN is a small letters, BIAS, bias, caps, and ED. It's understanding and educating about bias.
Mm-hmm.
That's how that came about. And so we remain committed to that goal. Our mission is to educate and bring awareness to hatred and anti-Semitism through programming, through conversations, through education. But also a big part of that with Unbiased is we want to be allies to others and consequently gain allies in our struggle for fairness and for peaceful resolution of difference. And I just put a plug in for our small group dialogues, which I was co-chair with Joe Jacoby. And I said, I feel very, very strongly the way you get allies and get to know people is you look them in the eye and you have a conversation and you get to know one another. So I'm going to take this opportunity to thank you, Iqbal, for you and I met a couple of years ago. We both expressed interest in the other's work, and it's developed into not just a working academic relationship, but we've all become friends in
Oh,
our group.
very much so, yeah.
We trust one another, and
Absolutely.
we feel comfortable having difficult conversations about differences,
Absolutely.
and that is a true gift.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So Susan, I'll maybe let you have the last word, but what is your experience been like with the small group dialogue, and what are your hopes for the future?
I have truly enjoyed the small group dialogues. Thank you very much. Really, it's been interesting. It's been thought-provoking. It's been emotional. There are certainly triggers that have come out. Mostly what I hope for is an ongoing relationship and getting to know you and getting to know the other members of the group more intimately. I think there's a lot to be gained by that. We have the trust where we are starting to talk.
Right.
I certainly don't have expectations that our experiences are going to have been the same or that we'll necessarily see eye to eye. But I do hope for deeper understanding and compassion and caring for one another. And I hope that can also allow us to feel really confident in ourselves as a group to be able to go out and continue that process.
Absolutely.
And just allow it to grow and to flourish, and to not be to be okay with being uncomfortable, because that's how we all grow.
Right.
The
Absolutely.
wobble is what's so important.
Yeah.
And for me, I am looking for opportunities to learn more and to grow and to further my valuable relationships with people.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
Can I add
Please,
one
go
last
for it.
thing? And
Sure.
thank you. I watched some of your other podcasts, and I just want to add this. If others are thinking about doing this interfaith work or interfaith dialogue, I would encourage you to always start with food.
Agreed.
We like it.
It's an icebreaker. You eat together, you talk
Exactly.
together about what foods you like, and really listen to one another. We all have stories we want to share, but it's really important to really listen and understand where the other person is coming from and what their life experience up until this moment has been that brought them to this point in feeling the way they feel.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, I mean, I think for me, especially, it's been very illuminating to be able to understand like a Jewish perspective, and especially understanding sort of anti-Semitism and sort of the challenges of October 7th, I think, from a Jewish perspective. But then on a personal level, it's been really wonderful to see how you've embraced me and my family as well. So especially, my young son, and sometimes I have caregiving duties, so
He's a cutie.
I had to take him everywhere, and you guys have been so hospitable and so kind, and that's just been, that means a lot to me. So I really appreciate that.
That's been a pleasure.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I think what we can do is in the fall, then we continue with, I think, going through our experiences, kind of our Muslim background and Muslim perspectives. And I think even having Zafreen talk, I think, would be very interesting, because her experience living and growing up in Pakistan, then coming to the United States. And it's, I think that there's just so much there in terms of thinking about what does it mean to encounter diversity. And the way that Jews are seen in Pakistan is like completely different. And kind of what work, can be done in terms of anti-Semitism globally. I think that's a whole nother discussion as well.
Oh, wow. Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes. So. Look forward to that.
Well, thank you guys so much for coming and for allowing yourselves to be interviewed. I learned a lot, and we'll continue the conversation for sure.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.